we're all numbers in this game. We all add up towards, I guess, their purpose, their agenda. So anything that you do, they collect, and then I guess they throw it back on you. That's why these For You pages are made. That's why these reels are made in the way that they are. These are algorithms highly developed to tailor what you like and what you dislike. They won't show you, I guess, what would, I guess, deter you away from the phone. They'll only show you things that keep you more addicted. Hello guys, so welcome to the DID podcast. My name is Joseph, and you're joined with Vihash. And today we're going to be talking about a new book, Deep Work, right?
Yeah.
Vihash, who's the author of this book?
I believe it's Cal Newport.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's kind of known in the space for self-help, productivity, and whatnot. I've read a couple books that he's written himself, how to become, I think, an A+ student or whatnot with less work, essentially. And in that book, he's essentially gone and, I guess, gotten accounts of those who have gotten those grades, and they describe some of the active processes that they had implemented in their strategies and schedules for them to essentially go on to achieve what they had achieved. But really, without further ado, today we're going to be talking about deep work. And to me, and I guess everybody watching, and yourself as well, Vihash, let's just classify what deep work is, I guess, formulated to be by Cal Newport. These are words from him. Professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve skill, and are hard to replicate. Now, within what I've just said, there's a lot going on. So if we can break that down just a little bit, and then we'll proceed forward with...
Need to break it.
You know what? Yeah, let's focus on the first sentence of that, really. So I'll go on to repeat that. So professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. Now, Vihash, with that being said, what do you take from what I've just said in that first sentence?
So there's two main things that I'm seeing from that sentence. One is the professional activities, choosing what it is that you want to do for a given amount of time. And the second one is creating a distraction-free zone, so removing anything that could deter you from achieving what it is you want to do in that period of time again. And we'll talk about this later on, because in his book, he does outline the 4 main steps to achieve this, and they could be easier than you think. Though I have to say, when I'm studying, usually I do find it quite hard to concentrate on a given piece of work for more than about 2 hours, because after that I start to basically, I feel like my energy is just being drained away. And he does say that the maximum that someone can concentrate 100%, that is, give something 100% focus, is 4 hours. So this isn't like you studying for 8 hours on end or anything like that. It's just, it goes back to what we were talking about Barbara Oakley's book, the diffuse and the focus mode.
Yeah.
This is like shorter periods of the focus mode, and then you have to complement it with a break. But we'll go into that in...
Yeah.
Do you want to break down the second part of that?
Perfect, yeah. So the second part of what Cal Newport defines to be as deep work is these efforts create new value and improve skill and are hard to replicate. So essentially, I feel as though, I think overall, if I could give you guys a bit of my overview on what he defines to be what's known as deep work, it's really that ability to have that solitude and focus period, then use what you gain from that to essentially not only develop your current, I guess, skill or attributes that you currently have, whatever craft that you're working on previously, I guess, it's all to do with the level of not only consistency, but the effort and level of deep work that you invest in that given set activity. Because say if you're consistent, doesn't matter how consistent you are, it's if you have a lack of effort in what you do, say you're actively trying to learn new information and then say apply it, the application of it, you will struggle without a shadow of a doubt. And Cal Newport describes that perfectly. Effortless. I don't know. I'm trying to say effortless. I can't even say it. Effortlessly in his following definition of deep work, because there's no other way that you can kind of put it better than how he's put it. Because number one, you have to invest the time and give 100% in, I guess, whatever, whether that would be a 4-hour time frame or a 2-hour time frame. Irrespective of that, you invest that time and you reap the rewards from that thereafter, because not only does it create new value in what you've just done, but it, I guess, hones on your skill. And yeah, these things are hard to replicate, because I guess to sit in one place for whether that would be 2 to 4 hours in an overstimulating world that we all live in, I think age plays a huge role, because demographics, I guess, who would be, I guess, appeal to this sort of self-help productivity space, it would be, I guess, us. We would be part of that demographic, I guess, those who are starting work, like myself, finishing a degree, starting work, that transition. There's a lot going on still, but also yourself, Yash. A levels, you're gonna arguably have one of the most important exams of your life to then go off into hopefully medicine. So we can see like a shift in perspective ever so slightly.
So essentially, this is for people our age, people who have a struggle with time management, or are struggling with dividing their full attention on a piece of work. Because I mean, especially with the rise of social media and technology and whatnot, it's really hard to stay focused on a piece of work. I'm definitely victim to that. I'm sure anyone our age, anyone who's older, like even in their 30s, I could go to say, or younger, anyone would have an issue with that. So this book is vital for addressing that issue and fixing it, if you like.
Yeah, without doubt. I think one thing this book does well, and we'll go off to explain this, I guess, is it describes the types of deep work that we can, that has to offer, essentially, that we can kind of immerse ourselves in. But also beyond that point, there's a very frequent recurring pattern, not only to do with the formulas that they say that develops, I guess, what deep work is. So when I say formulas, it's all to do with, I guess, the time that you invest and the effort that you have. And then I guess essentially the product is, I guess, what you have essentially produced in that time, that new skill, new value. So that value is only a custom or created through not only the time that you've invested, but also the effort that you've invested. And I feel like there's, I guess, an ever-going current trend within these productivity books. Now, don't get me wrong, these books are great, right? But I guess a critical factor from another perspective, that there is an ever so slight, I guess, sprinkle of I wouldn't like to say copy and paste, but that's really what I'm saying technically.
Yeah, I
there's
feel like
not really any other way to put it.
These books can be very general and very vague sometimes.
Yeah.
And they fail to really pinpoint like someone's situation, because anyone's situation would vary from person to person. Someone's distraction on a given day is not going to be the same as another person's distraction on the same day. You're always going to have little nuances between whether someone can do a piece of work or whether someone can't do a piece of work. And these books do fail to address that. And that's what that was one problem I found with the book, to be honest, because although it did outline the 4 steps, which I'll go into in just a minute.
Yeah.
It did outline those 4 steps, and I did feel like, okay, I know what I need to be doing now. It's this, and this. I still didn't feel that sense of clarity with what it is exactly I need to be doing, and that took a bit of time and effort on my part to realize what it is I actually need to be doing for my given situation. So if I just go on to talk about the 4 steps, if you're happy with that. The first one that he outlined was to focus on what the actual activity is that you want to do. So you can't be very vague about it. If you want to write an essay, you can't just say, I'm going to write an essay. You need to
Yeah.
Think about, okay, I'm going to start with planning my essay first. I'm going to
Yeah.
start with maybe just writing the intro, think about the conclusion, then think about the bulk of the essay. Or if it's a project, you really need to have like a concrete plan of what it is you want to be doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it can lead to what's known as procrastination, which we have talked about several times.
Yes.
And you're going to start saying, okay, I'll just put it off, because you still don't know what it is you want to do. So as long as you've
Yeah.
got that concrete plan, then you can start seeing it come into fruition. And the second step was to schedule blocks of time, so periods of time in a day or in a given week to actually complete the task. And what this is addressing is that you're not going to be able to suddenly switch on and focus for 2 hours straight on a given day. This is something that you need to build up over time, and this links to atomic habits. Essentially, it's the
Yeah.
underlying feature of atomic habits, and that is you need to do a little bit at a time, build up over a longer period of time, and then eventually you'll be able to build up so it becomes a habit that you don't even think about. And this is sort of playing in that same realm, that playing on that same idea of start off with a small amount of time. So maybe start off with 20 minutes of focused activity, and then increase it to about half an hour, increasing it to 45 minutes, and then you'll gradually get to an hour of just 100% concentration on a piece of work. And then once you build that up, you'll start to see that you don't really need to plan a certain time, because it just happens instinctively. The third step, and this is one that we'll get into in a bit, because this is where the nuances come in. That's to eliminate your distractions around you. So what's stopping you from completing that piece of work? What's dividing your attention between 3 or 4 different things? And also to leave any shallow pieces of work. So that might be checking emails, that might be things that don't require your 100% concentration and effort to the end once you've finished a bigger piece of work that you want to do. And the last one, which we'll also talk about, step number 4, is to have a shutdown routine to basically like reset, do something that you enjoy, do something that you don't feel like is, you do something that you want to do, basically, not something that you don't want to do, so that the next time you tackle a piece of deep work, you're completely awake, completely active, and you can focus on it 100%.
Yeah. Great. Some great points that you've made there. I feel like there's also like routines that we fail to address that we need to do every day. Whether that would be, I guess, a bedtime routine, getting, a morning routine. We need these routines, but we also need to stay consistent in what we do so that we're always performing at like the highest level that we can day in, day out. But then again, I guess there's only so many things that productivity books can do in general. Yeah, it's only so far that it can take you before it's at breaking point or at burnout, because you can watch all these videos, you can read all these books, but without necessary, I guess, time dedication and really, paying close attention to how to execute what they've said and applying what they've said. I think that's the final hurdle, and that's what people fail to get the message, and therefore, people really just kind of like, sometimes they could kind of beat themselves up, regardless of how much you read and how you do things. It all comes back down to how much effort that you're willing to kind of invest and the time that you're willing to invest.
And it's important to know that this isn't going to click the first time. Like, you're not going to be able to, you might not even be able to concentrate for 20 minutes. It might only be 5 to 10 minutes. And don't be beaten down by that, especially with me, because my concentration varies on a given day. Yesterday, it was fairly high. The day before, I didn't do much work compared to yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's always going to vary depending on what's around you. But
Yeah.
you need to determine how that affects you, and don't let it affect. Oh, I heard this quote the other day, right? I heard this quote. Bless you.
How do you know I sneezed? Oh yeah, you could see me.
Fairly obvious.
Yeah. Okay.
I heard this quote the other day that was talking about, what did it say? Oh yeah. Don't let your environment dictate you, you dictate your environment. So even if something you feel like it's a distraction, you are well within the right to remove that distraction if it's preventing you from completing a piece of work. But the thing is that distraction can vary from day to day, and that's what I wanted to talk about. What would be some distractions to you that are preventing you from doing a piece of work, Joseph?
Right now, I guess it would just be a menial task, whether that would be laundry or whether that would be, it'd be small things that I'd feel like, oh, I need to do this, but I'll have to do it at some point, so why not just do it now and then I'll just do the task later. But then one thing after another, whether that would be a phone that kind of buzzes up, oh yeah, a friend, because I'm only down in Oxford for a couple of days, I can say hi to a couple of people. There will be things that just come up out of nowhere that you can't plan for, that I would need to do. You get what I mean?
Yeah, no. And to be fair, I think most distractions are like that. They are menial tasks that are just playing in the back of the mind. And like, for instance, right, if there's a chore that you need to do, you're like, oh, I need to do that now. I need to do that now. You keep procrastinating, you keep putting it off, and you keep doing that. That's not the way to go about it, when actually putting off such menial tasks until after you've completed the bigger project might be the way to go about it, according to what Newport is saying. So with these distractions, if you're trying to eliminate them, sometimes procrastination is the key to do that. Just put them off right until the end. But let's say a distraction is not necessarily something you can control. So with your phone, for example, you can't control when it buzzes when a notification comes in. So then how would you say you can eliminate a distraction like that?
By putting on Do Not Disturb, I guess.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I guess there would be things that you what, sorry?
It's a fairly simple answer, man.
Yeah, it is, but it's slightly more complicated than that. I guess if there was deep work that I wanted to get done, most certainly I'd put it on Do Not Disturb. Or I would put an app blocker on, and there would be a block of time where I would not be able to access a series of apps. This would be either Opal or OneSec, and therefore, if I were to tap on it, it would have like a refractory period of where you wait like 10 to 20 seconds, and in that time, you're consciously thinking of the action that you've just done, in that you've pressed, I don't know, Instagram, and in that space of time, you're not going to wait 10-20 seconds for the app to open. Unless if you're really, really wanting to go on that application, you're not really going to want to do it, because you start to be more conscious of the action that you've taken. Switch on your phone, go to the app, and then mindlessly scroll. That stops you in those tracks. And that's what I like about these, I guess.
But then when those are being blocked, like, you're not allowed to use that for how long?
So you can not use it for like, well, you can choose to not use it for like, I guess 20 minutes or even the whole day, in fact. And any time that you do want to use it, you do have to wait at least like 20 seconds. One of the features Opal has is, for example, each time that you click on it and have access to it, it goes from 20 to then 40, then 60. So the increments of wanting to open this app will only increase. So it acts as a deterrence, I guess.
But then let's say you do have that and you've tried to go on an app on your phone, and then you've just seen a message saying you can't access it in like until 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you subconsciously like, okay, fine, I'll do some piece of work now. In that period of 20 minutes of you doing the work, is that not constantly playing on your mind, which means that your attention is not fully on the piece of work that you're doing?
So usually for it to get to, now I know what you mean. So there are flaws with this sort of thing, but with the way that they design these apps, right? So you set a block time for an hour, and in that hour, in order for you to access it, usually you'd have to wait around 20 seconds to open the application, right? And within those 20 seconds of having to wait, you have an instant realization of not wanting to use the app. So therefore you close it and then you get back to your work. Now, with respect to the 20 minutes, I guess, I think you're talking about one of the other features where it adds up, right? But for it to get to that sort of time limit in order for you to access the app, you would have needed to access the app a ridiculous amount of times as it was already. And therefore, I wouldn't even say that you're in some focus mode, or let's say for that matter, deep work in that state, because clearly that person is not. So therefore, I would say my answer to that question would be it's all to do with how you plan. So say if it was a 20-minute block and you wanted to access the app, you would invest that 20 minutes of time into deep work because you know that you will have access to the app in 20 minutes. So if it was going to be an hour, then you know that you're going to have access to it in an hour. I guess, again, you use these strategies in tandem with one another to optimize your overall function. So I guess whether that would be an hour of deep work and then 5 to 10 minutes of break, that's something that you can do. That's something that these apps can perform.
So I guess it's a bit like having an internal motivation. So you know that in 20 minutes you're going to be able to relax. You're going to see it as a reward, and you're like, okay, for this 20 minutes I'm going to focus so that I actually get that reward at the end, and I actually feel like I've accomplished something.
Exactly.
And that, I think this ties in very nicely with the whole focus and diffuse mode. If you split your studying session or your working session into like 20-minute of focused activity and then 5-minute break and 20-minute and a 5, or 40 minutes and then 10, or 40 minutes and then 10, if you split it like that, then it's basically maximizing your productivity. But one thing that conflicts with Barbara Oakley's book and this one, Deep Work, is that he argues there's something called attention residue. So if you think of it as I don't know, let's say you think of it as a liquid, right? And let's say you pour water into a jug. That's 100% full now if you pour all the water to the top of the jug. When you go to do a piece of work, let's say you start off with a 20-minute studying session or 20-minute work session, you use about 20% of that attention because you've invested that much attention into that piece of work. And then let's say you use another 5% to reap your reward and go onto social media or go on to just start watching a funny video or something. Then you've used up 5% of your attention and you've left some of your attention in somewhere where it's not useful. So then he argues that after you've left that 5% in somewhere where it's not useful, when you try to go back to doing something productive, you're less productive than you were before, if you see what I mean. It's following a concept of burnout. So you're never going to be able to keep cycling through this 20-minute, 5-minute break cycle continuously. You're going to burn out at the end of the day. So I'm basically saying that even the whole focus mode and the diffuse mode has its flaws. You can't just rely on that. You need at some point a shutdown mode, if you like. And if we can go into that very quickly and then come back to something else later.
Sure. Go for it.
All right, so his fourth step, like I said before, was to have a shutdown period of time where you essentially rewind and do something that doesn't require a lot of concentration, doesn't require a lot of effort from your end. And that can vary from person to person. So that can literally just be in playing games at the end of the day, or watching your favorite TV show at the end of the day, or even just spending some time with your family, cooking, anything that makes you feel like a bit relaxed and lets you wind down a bit. Then that ensures that the next day, when you try to go back to the whole focused mode and the whole deep work aspect of your day, you're basically ensuring that you'll have 100% of your concentration. No,
I like that a lot, because especially with any shutdown ritual or morning ritual, there is a way that you are able to not only consolidate what you've, I guess, extracted or extrapolated from that day all in all, but also a good way to start the day. Okay, and what's so good about these rituals is that they're uniform, they're well, I guess, thought out processes tailored to a specific individual. There's no, I guess, set principle that you all have to brush your teeth at a set time. You all need to switch off your phones a good hour before you go to sleep. People have their processes and people work in different ways, and therefore, if, I guess, you are a construction worker, right, and compared to me, I might have a different shutdown process compared to them, because imagine throughout the day they're incredibly physical in the labor that they do. They are a lot more tired, and I guess, we all have that social interaction throughout the day, because I'm working in the office, I'm working in the labs as well, but I guess as well the dynamic of them being, I guess, physically exhausted, because I don't feel physically exhausted after work. Although I feel tired, I'm not physically exhausted as opposed to a construction worker would be. So their shutdown ritual would of course be different to mine, and my ability to make sure that I fully consolidated the information that I've done, because I'm trying to take in a lot of information since I've just started my new role as a trainee pharmacist at GSK. You could imagine the kind of effort that I have to put in day out, not only for the e-learning, but also, I guess, the new information or pieces of information that I'm learning regarding formulations and how medicines are formulated, because there's a vast amount of content on lectures of how these processes work, and I'm working intensely to essentially break down these bulks of information to what I can understand and revise, and then participate in discussions and meetings with what I've learned. So what I'm really trying to say is people work in different ways. People have different shutdown rituals, but it's all about how you work, what your day involves, and essentially how you wind down. So I think this is a really good aspect that Cal Newport touches on, the shutdown ritual. Is there anything else that you really want to say about the shutdown ritual?
I would advise maybe not to do something that requires social media just before you go to bed, only because there's this I just feel like generally with social media, right, it's designed to dilute your brain activity, because I think I said this before, because you're constantly scrolling away and each video is like 30 seconds to 1 minute or even slightly more than that. That's all that that's how long you're focusing for, tops. Whereas when you go into these periods of deep work, you are required to focus for 20 minutes to an hour to 2 hours even, and according to Cal Newport, you can go on for 4 hours of just complete focused work. But with social media, the more you use it, the more it's going to dilute your brain into thinking that actually I don't need to concentrate for that long. I only need my attention to be worth 5 minutes maximum. And anything after that, I'll be stimulated again. Anything after that, I'll be stimulated again. And because you keep using this over and over again, it's basically developing this habit of not concentrating for more than 20 minutes. And if you keep doing that, like I said, it's going to weaken your brain's ability to resist the temptation of social media. So I wouldn't recommend your breaks.
Yeah, I guess it goes back to that thing, delayed gratification and short-term relief. There's a different term for it, but I'm absolutely butchering what I'm saying with what I'm trying to say with short-term relief. But what I'm really trying to say is you're really trying to get that hit of dopamine as quickly as you can, because you do not have, I guess, the control right now to have that, I guess, process of delayed gratification to, I guess, stop doing what you're doing. You know that it's going to affect your sleep. If you stop mindlessly scrolling away now, you don't have to, I guess, wake up groggy tomorrow. But then I guess this then gets back into, like, what is that called? It's like you are almost bedtime revenge, or revenge bedtime. It's essentially this. Sorry, what was it?
Procrastinations.
Revenge procrastination. That was it. Yeah, at bed. Yes. Yeah, revenge procrastination. This is huge, because not only are people having access to a digital device just before they go to bed, but if you are, let's say, at the time that you usually go to bed, 10 p.m. every day, but then you decide to pick this up and then you mindlessly scroll away, you're essentially shooting yourself in the foot, because your brain thinks that you're essentially trying to take control of the time that you have, but in actuality, you are just feeding into these companies and their traps, because these people, they want you to do this. They want you to fall into your urges. They want you to, I guess, be a slave to them, because anything that you view, anything that you like, anything that you ultimately do on these applications, they are recorded, they're then fed back into the system, and your data is sold. That's a harsh reality. We're all numbers in this game. We all add up towards, I guess, their purpose, their agenda. So anything that you do, they collect, and then, I guess, they throw it back on you. That's why these For You pages are made. That's why these reels are made in the way that they are. These are algorithms highly developed to tailor what you like and what you dislike. And therefore, they won't show you what you dislike. They won't show you, I guess, what would, I guess, deter you away from the phone. They'll only show you things that keep you more addicted. So I guess, in actuality, this kind of like sums up, I guess, what we are trying to get across, right? Perfectly. Because we want delayed gratification. Although we don't want it right now, and it's harder to see, I guess, what you can get in a week's time with good work and consistency, and you can get this amount of stuff done. Oh, I can get this amount of revision done for next week. Oh, that would be amazing, really and truly. But seriously, people focus on the mindset of, I guess both you and I are responsible of doing this as well, shooting ourselves in the foot. At some point we have done this, Vihesh. We have sacrificed, I guess, time that we should have spent elsewhere, and I guess done something slightly more unproductive, whether that would be being on our phone and therefore mindlessly scrolling away. And therefore, what does that happen? What happens there is essentially you delay whatever was delayed previously. From that week delayed gratification, I guess now it's now thrown down, I guess 2 weeks down. And beyond that point, you're having that instant gratification at your doorstep. You're enjoying yourself in the moment. But little do you know, you just shot yourself in the foot. But I guess there is one thing I did want to say, and I have said this previously, but I did want to highlight this. And this was that deep work focuses on the fact that you need to be able to quickly master hard things and produce at an elite level in terms of both quality and speed. Now, what I mean by that is, again, the formulas all these productivity books use. Now, let me tell you about what the formula that they have here. The new law of productivity, word for word. The new law of productivity. High quality work produced is equal to the time spent multiplied by the intensity of focus. I tell you this right now, Vihesh, I have seen this exact formula across umpteen different books. Now, Don't get me wrong, it's a great formula. It makes sense. On paper, it makes sense. But again, it goes back to that, I guess, critical nature of originality and understanding, I guess, maybe, is there a different way that we kind of can look at it at? Because I feel like they're just using different terms and phrases to formulate these formulas. Like I don't like being critical of things, but sometimes we do need to ask questions.
Yeah, I think the thing with formulas, people accept them because they're really simple. Like, they make sense. When you see something is equal to something, it's easy. I can do that then. Is that what I needed to know? Formula for a recipe. It's numbers. When you see maths involved in a problem, you always assume that it's a straight solution. There's no if, buts, or maybes. But like you said, in actuality, it's going to be hard. That just because you see a formula saying that the quality of your work depends on how long you spend on it and the intensity, you automatically think, okay, fine, the longer I spend on it, the higher the piece of quality. But the longer I spend on it, the greater the quality of the piece of work is what I'm trying to say. But really, I feel like the longer you spend on it, you're just going to lean to burnout. And if you spend too long on it, then it doesn't add up. So not all formulas aren't always going to be the exact solutions to your problems. And I feel like you just have to keep going at it. You're gonna fail to begin with, and it's really difficult. It's not easy to start off, and especially for me, I'm not consistent with the quality of work that I produce every day. I'm not consistent with the amount of revision I do every day. But I know that on the days that I am doing it, which are most of them, I reap the rewards. I do feel gratified at the end of the day. And it's all good. So just don't depend on these equations to solve your problems regarding productivity and whatnot, because half the time they're just there to make you feel better about yourself, when really doesn't really work that way.
Exactly. Most certainly. I think there is one thing that I kind of did want to do. I don't know if we have enough time for it, but should we try to do it?
What is it?
So essentially, it's to do with how Cal defines the approaches that you can adopt when you want to knuckle down and do deep work. And these approaches are based on like your personality and the time that you really want to invest. So if I give you an example, there are 4 approaches that the average individual can do. And this could be monistic approach, bimodal approach, rhythmic approach, and journalistic approach. And of which are detailing, I guess, certain parameters that kind of tailor to a specific person's personality or traits or whatnot, that they can, I guess, utilize in their process of, I guess, getting deep work done. Is it all right if we brush over these points, really?
Yeah.
Perfect. So, a monistic approach. So, this involves dedicating nearly all of your work hours to deep work, minimizing shallow tasks. It's suitable for those who want to work independently and have the seniority to delegate shallow tasks. And these are not dependent on others for achieving their goals. For example, Charles Darwin, who had a strict workday ritual and allows for focused deep work. So from that, in one sentence, Vihesh, how do you think this applies, I guess, to the general population? Do you think this would be, I guess, something that most people can use or not use?
So say that again. How does that what?
I guess, how does this mode of approach in trying to utilize deep work, do you think applies to the general population in what they can do? Do you think this would work, or do you think this wouldn't work in this day and age?
Well, I don't. The thing is, things like this are going to vary. So all I can really say is just you're going to have to try it and see if it works.
Okay.
That sounds like it would work for someone like me
Okay.
because personally, I need like that sort of external motivation sometimes to get on with a piece of work.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it would work for other people. So it really varies.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, people have different responsibilities. People have things that they can't necessarily delegate, and they are all, I guess, been bestowed all the responsibility. You have to cook, you have to clean, you have to do all these different sorts of things, and you have to realize some people do not have that freedom. You're luckily able to live, with your family still. Yes, I know you're in sixth form, but you get, I guess, food made for you. I guess sometimes you can delegate responsibilities wherever possible, given that you're young. Say in now my position, now although I'm still living with a family technically, say if I was living in a rented accommodation, there would be a lot more responsibilities that are kind of tied with the baggage or luggage that I would now have, because now I'm an adult. I have a lot more responsibilities. I have to take care of myself. I have to cook for myself. These are things and chores that I need to do and stay consistent on. So I like this approach, but there are flaws to it. Bimodal approach. This approach divides time. This approach divides time between deep work and shallow work. It's ideal for those with predictable schedules with a clear division of deep and shallow tasks, and those who engage in solitude, like confinement, or let's say have creative work that benefits from long periods of focus, followed by breaks. There's this author, Isabel. I'm not going to say her second name, I'm going to absolutely butcher it, but she essentially dedicates the first few months of each year solely to writing. So you could see really how she divides deep work and shallow work and knows what the schedule really will be like. So just could
So
you give me a line? Is this applicable?
is that saying that is that splitting that 20 minutes to 5? Is that what we were saying before, or is this just
Yes.
okay? Yeah, that makes sense because that seems like that would apply to the vast majority of people.
Yeah. Bimodal
Especially
work. Yeah.
yeah, especially with this day and age of so many distractions with the phone
Yeah.
and technology and whatnot. People are going to constantly want to go on their phone. People are going to constantly watch their favorite video. That's going to be playing on their mind throughout the whole time. So if you're able to split it like that, you're being rewarded every 20 minutes, but then you're also working for longer periods of time. So I think for the majority, compared to the last one, for the majority, this would be applicable and it would actually work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. I feel like that could as well. And I feel like it's also a very simple approach. Now, the next approach is rhythmic approach. So this involves carrying out consistent daily time slots for deep work. It's suitable for those who have many shallow tasks, reliance on collaboration, and those new to deep work. For example, Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss, was he the one that wrote 4 Hour Work Week? I can't remember. Anyway, Tim Ferriss, who batches his email time to manage shallow tasks efficiently. Now, rhythmic approach, I like this. I like that it involves that element of consistency, making sure that you have slots of time for deep work. There's a lot more intricate in that. You have to, I guess, it's suitable for those with many shallow tasks and reliance on collaboration. So I guess if you do work within a team, there is that aspect that's kind of produced in tandem with this, but also you're consistent with it. It's a rhythmic approach. Now, just your take on that, Yash.
So how does this vary from bimodal?
I think what this is that this is more of a, now although bimodal approach, I guess you know what's going to be ahead of you, right? The rhythmic approach, I think, irrespective of your daily tasks, you're going to make sure that you're carrying out something consistently and daily. And I guess this is more of a, I guess, shift towards those who are managing a team, working in a multidisciplinary team, those with different skill sets, those with, I guess, maybe even a larger team, because you're going to have to, number one, find that slot. Number two, you're going to have a lot of shallow work as well. But also, I have not defined what shallow work is. So let me just quickly say what that is right now. So shallow work is essentially is non-cognitively demanding tasks, logistical style tasks, often performed while distracted. These efforts tend not to create much new value in the world and are easy to replicate. So as you could imagine, I feel like the rhythmic approach, is a lot more tailored towards those who are working in a team. As he said previously in what it is, it's those on collaboration and whatnot. So I can see why that there's some similarity and overlap, but I can also see the divide between the two. But yeah,
So it's just like an overload. You have more work to do at the end of the day when you're working
Yeah.
in a collaborative team, and you're going to have more distractions, I guess, compared
Yeah.
to when you're working on your own. So this might be better for someone who does feel like they're overwhelmed with a bunch of tasks and
Right.
does more things on the fly, which sounds a bit like me, to be honest,
Yeah.
because I fail to make a timetable for a given week or a given day, to be honest. I don't have a timetable at all, but I do mentally make a plan, and I do set aside time for my revision. So this sounds like something for me whereby I can, it does sort of align with how I go about doing things. I don't necessarily make like a concrete schedule for a
Yeah.
given piece of work, but I am able to do it at the end of the day.
Great, that's great. And one last thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the last journalistic approach, what that entails, and out of the four that we've discussed, I want to tell you one that applies to you most, and likewise with me, and we'll round off today.
All right.
Let's go forward with that. So journalistic approach. This approach is about fitting deep work into a busy schedule by quickly switching into a deep focus mode when opportunities arise. It's ideal for those balancing multiple projects requiring frequent context switching or holding a day job while pursuing side projects. For example, news journalists who write their stories under tight deadlines.
That one might be more for me if I were to go back to like sixth form or something like that, because then I'd have a job, if you like, or I'd have something that's time pressured, because school you usually associate with deadlines, and university you usually associate with deadlines, work you usually associate with deadlines.
Yeah.
But right now, when I have that freedom of choosing when I want to do work and how I want to do work, that doesn't really apply to me as much. So this sounds like someone who's under that constant time pressure and has to work at the time all the time. You know what I mean? But
I think you put that really well.
When I go back to sixth form.
I perfectly get what you mean. I think considering all four approaches, I feel like right now for me, the journalistic approach is an approach that I need to look more into, in that this applies to me because I have to be producing something day in, day out while at work, whether that would be making new connections, consistently performing at the level that I've been performing at, putting in those hours. Now, although it's a 7.5 hour work day, I like to come in early and I like to leave late. And I like that pattern in that right now I'm coming at 9 every day and I leave at around 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. The usual work day is, of course, 9 to 5 or 9 to 5:30 or whatnot, considering or factoring in break as well. But I think beyond that point, we have to consider the fact that once school starts, because I live, I think, a good hour away with traffic from my place of work, GSK R&D formulation department, I'm going to have to travel a lot earlier in the morning. So I could see myself getting to the office at around 7 a.m. And therefore, if I'm there at 7 a.m., I'm likely going to be leaving at around 6 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. I think that's going to be my regular schedule, in that I do not like traffic. And if that was the case, I'm going to make sure I fit everything that I can into those, 11 and a half hours, right? So with that being in mind, I have a busy schedule. Sorry?
Stick approach is best for you.
I feel so, in that I'm going to have to have, I have right now even, multiple different things that I'm doing in tandem with one another, but they're all helping towards that bigger purpose. There have been projects that have been assigned and to do, and then as well as that, it's the continual lifelong learning as well that I'm trying to use in tandem with this aspect of trying to help improve the output and the literature reviews that I'm developing currently in one of my projects at the moment that I've been assigned to. So I'd say I feel I could blabber on about this all day, honestly. But yeah, journalistic approach I feel applies more to me, and I think an approach that university applies across this context to most people, I feel would be. Correct me if I'm wrong. I genuinely feel it would be, I guess, the bimodal approach.
Yes. Actually, no.
Oh,
If I feel like rhythmic is a bit more. It makes sense if you're starting out as someone who wants to divide their attention effectively, and
right.
then as you go on and you become like a bit of an amateur at it, then you could start to incorporate a bit more bimodal, because a timetabling can be quite difficult when you're doing it on your own. When you have that external scheduling, then it goes into journalistic, because then you're working under someone else's terms and conditions, if you like,
Yeah.
someone else's timetable. So you feel a bit more pressure to do a task. Whereas when you're doing it independently, it can be a bit hard to get that motivation going to begin with. So I go back to what I said at the start. Start by doing a little at a time. Prioritize what it is what activity is most important to you. Secondly, schedule a time for just that one activity in one day.
Yeah.
See how that goes. Make sure that time is not too long and not too short, just about right, 20 minutes to begin with, like we said, and then you can start extending it to 40 and an hour and 2 hours and whatnot. And then third of all, remove any distractions that prevent you from completing that activity as best as you can. If there is anything that you can't control, just get rid of it completely, like your phone or whatnot. And then the last one is to make sure you have like a shutdown ritual, as we mentioned before, something that you enjoy at the end of the day, or you can incorporate it throughout your revision time, but something that you feel is like a reward for all the hard work you've done so far.
Yeah, and that's great. I think you put that perfectly, to be honest. The only reason why I thought it was bimodal was the fact that 5-day work week, you know that what you're going to do, I guess, day in, day out. And I guess this applies more to, I guess, those who have started work rather than opposed to, I guess, those in your position. So I guess different perspectives. I do like this conversation, and I had the joy today, in fact. And with that being said, Viyesh, do you have any last remarks or any message that you want to get off into the audience? I know that you already have said something, but is there anything else that you do want to say to the audience?
Well, no, it's just these book reviews. We want to start doing a bit more of them. Going to start tapping into a bit more of these, not just productivity, but more like psychology, neurology type stuff, something that makes you think and that sparks these discussions and debates, if you like. Like we don't agree on everything. And we just hope that this can stimulate you into thinking and reflecting on a bit of what you do. Because at the end of the day, we're just here to speak our mind on popular topics.
Exactly. Yeah, perfect. Well put, Viyesh. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today's discussion. Going forward, we'll of course put more of an emphasis on these, I guess, maybe taboo topics that we don't really speak about as much. I feel like mental health is huge in the space that we are in right now. Psychology plays a huge factor, and the intricacies behind psychiatry, neurology, and psychology, I guess they all fuse to become this very, I guess, it could be, I guess, somewhat dark, but I guess this would be an area that we should expand on. We should find that, I guess, hyper focus on areas or shine a light on, really. If there's so much dark, let's just get some light up in this. And with that being said, I'm going to blabber on a bit too much. So you what? Sorry, and see what happens. Yeah, perfect.
See what happens.
Yeah, let's go. We just did it.
Yep, we just did that.
Yeah, we just did that. That's right.
All right, amendments.